Welcome to the kingdom. I'm Chris, and this is Good Enough Gaming. Well, howdy, folks. Welcome back to the Line of Sight podcast, where today my guest is William from Wyloch's Armory. William, thanks for joining me on the podcast.
Hey, no problem. Call me Bill.
Bill. All right, we'll go by Bill. So, Bill, you actually have, I think you are the second largest channel that I've ever interviewed for this. And the only channel that's got you beat is Mini Wargaming. So, I mean, that's pretty big. So I'm really excited to have you on here and talk about all kinds of stuff here. But before we dive into the, into all the good stuff, let's have the listeners get to know you a little bit. Tell us, how did you get into tabletop wargaming?
I was originally into role-playing games, D&D, my whole life. And a friend introduced me to 40K. I guess it would have been 8 or 9 years ago. And that was right around the time I had launched my channel. So I was making miniature terrain stuff for D&D, and then saw wargaming was a thing and provided whole other opportunities to make different kinds of terrain. So really, that's all it was. For me, it's all about the scenery. I am not a competitive player at all. And bought Space Marines and got into the other armies. And so it was really 40K non-regimented. But I hated the game itself. Playing the game was awful. So I Googled 40K free alternatives or something like that. This would have been 2017 or something, and found One Page 40K, which would later be renamed to One Page Rules.
So what was it about 40K? Because your story is very similar to lots. It is my own as well, where you played 40K for a bit, but there was something about it. Like, for everyone, it's different what kind of turned them off. But what was it about 40K that you really didn't like that made you want to go look for something else?
It's the non-back and forth, that your turn is your entire army. I cannot fathom how that's still a thing, and with all the additions they've done, that you're sitting there for 45 minutes while the other player takes a turn. It doesn't feel like a battle. It doesn't feel interactive. It's not heated like One Page is. That's the main thing. Sitting there for 45 minutes.
Now, I know they've tried to... I don't know if you ever played Age of Sigmar, or if you just stuck with 40K.
I did not, yeah.
Okay, so they try... I guess they're aware that that's a concern, because when they redid one of the latest editions of Age of Sigmar, they tried to have that where you still one person did their whole turn, but the other person could interrupt and use command abilities and stuff and kind of create more of a dynamic. But for me, that just felt like a token gesture. Like, oh yeah, okay, we understand that you don't like sitting there for half an hour while your opponent takes his turn. So here, every few minutes, you can interject something. But yeah, I absolutely get that. It's no fun to sit there and watch your opponent go, especially if you have like bad deployment or they have great list building and they can table you in turn one, and that's the
exactly, yeah. And I love the lore of 40K. That's the first thing that I fell in love with. So I wasn't interested in some totally alternative sci-fi wargaming system. I wanted the 40K feel and flavor. So I wasn't really willing to compromise. And just by luck, someone else, Gaetano Ferreira, I guess felt the same way and came up with this great system. And so that's why I'm exclusively One Page Rules now.
And it's interesting you say that, because I've heard a lot of the people who view my channel, other people I've talked to, who say the exact same thing. They want the 40K universe, but the One Page Rules rule set. So in that case, Tano was right on the money, because the whole reason he created One Page 40K and then later OPR was that's what he wanted. He's like, I love the game, but it's getting too complex, too bogged down, too detailed. And so obviously he must have succeeded. So you said exclusively you don't play any other tabletop games, or just One Page Rules is your primary go-to?
Just as far as war games goes, I play role-playing games as well.
Mostly D&D, or do you branch out from there as well?
Mostly D&D. Past few years, I've been publishing. So I've just finished fulfilling Kickstarter on my first book. So Neon Skies is my cyberpunk role-playing system. So it's a brand new system and setting. Been doing a lot of that. Kind of sick of it, because it's been 5 years play testing it and publishing it. So
Wow.
just got into a new D&D campaign with my normal group, and we're going to do that for a while. But
Okay.
I've dabbled
Fantastic.
in. I had a Vampire of the Masquerade phase when I was a teenager.
Okay.
One of those, and
But you keep coming back to D&D.
yeah, every year or so, it's like you just come back and I don't know, despite everything that's going on, which I don't really pay attention to, the feel of D&D, it's sort of a similar thing. The feel of D&D and the lore behind it, just you can find an indie system that maybe is objectively designed better, but it still doesn't matter to me. I don't know.
Okay. No, that's very interesting because you'll go out and you'll try another role playing game and find yourself kind of meandering back to Dungeons and Dragons. Whereas 40K, the what's the word I'm looking for? Not the disenchantment, but just the things that turned you off were great enough that you went out and tried something else, but you didn't find yourself then slowly migrating back. At least not rules wise. So with D&D, it is actually the world and the rule set. Both of those are you're happy with those.
Yeah, I think so. The sheer amount of published content and a role playing game is a very different beast than a war game. There's, as far as mechanics go, there's so much more leeway, right? And the whole objective is different. It's not a competition, it's a collaboration.
Yeah, it's telling a
So,
story and kind of building the story as you go along rather than the story is kind of just the excuse for putting models on the table and starting to roll dice.
yeah.
So then a question for you then, because you're very big into role-playing games and things like that, have you tried out the OPR Quest games, which are kind of like halfway between Dungeons and Dragons and like a tabletop skirmish? Have you tried those at all?
I've not. I've downloaded them. My channel and this Kickstarter kept me so busy that I haven't even touched them. I read the rules one time. They're in my pile of curiosities. No idea if I'll ever get to it. I would like to.
Okay. Okay. I was just curious because, obviously preparing for our conversation here, I went through your channel, looked at your different playlists and content, things like that. And I sat there, I was almost expecting to see some Quest stuff because I'm watching this going, he does a lot of role playing in D&D. I wonder if he's tried this. So I'd be very curious to maybe talk to you at a later date after you've had a chance and see from someone who does a lot of role playing games what you think of it. Because
Mhm.
I always explain it as it's almost like playing Diablo. I don't know if you're familiar with
Oh
Blizzard
God,
games, stuff like that.
Jesus,
So
yes.
it's role playing, but the emphasis isn't necessarily on character building and following a story, but it's more of that than you'll get in Grimdark Future or Age of Fantasy. Like you create a character, there's a lot of detail to it. You fight hordes of monsters looking for specific quests, but you don't have like the interaction in Dungeons and Dragons when you go into town and have to interact with the people, and you don't have a group necessarily that you're building a rapport with, and so on. So eventually I'll have to have you back on and ask you about that. So
Certainly, yeah.
so then as far as anyone who hasn't seen Wyloch's Armory, so his channel has tons and tons of tutorials for building all kinds of terrain. Now, were you always crafty of that sort, or did you get into role playing and then realize this would enhance the experience, and that's when you started, or how did you get into actually building terrain?
Oh, so it was probably 2012, 2013-ish where I discovered a channel called The DM's Craft. It's run by a guy he goes by the moniker DM Scotty, the craft father. So he's some years older than me, but he had been a war gamer, took his terrain making skills to his role playing, and then started a YouTube channel. He was like on that first wave of people in my sub niche. And I built a bunch of his stuff. And after a year or so, I thought, I have some original ideas I'd like to share. I'm going to try my own YouTube channel. So that's how I got into terrain making. It was only about 11, 12 years ago. And then the YouTube channel was, I don't know, a year or two after that.
Okay. And for those who haven't seen it, Bill has this one segment where you built like an entire, I can't remember what the name the adventure was, one of the earliest D&D maps, and you have a video of you having it set out in your garage, and it takes like the entire floor. It's either your garage or your basement. And how
Yeah,
long did it
the
take
Tomb
you
of
to build
Horrors.
the Tomb of Horrors? How long did it
Yeah.
take you to construct that whole thing?
Yeah, so anyone peripherally like into D&D will know the Tomb of Horrors. So I built the whole thing without compromise. It took about probably 18 months of, now that's not every night work because I have a normal day job and the family and everything. So if I were to do that, if I were to say the hours total, geez, I don't know, 300 or 400 probably.
My goodness.
But
And then you
I spread it out over 10 videos over 18
sure.
months.
Okay. And then where do you come up when you're creating it? Is it you're coming up like your ideas for building terrain? Is it you say, okay, I got this D&D campaign coming up. I need terrain to fit it, or do you just kind of start diving in, building something, and then say, what would be a great story that would involve this piece?
Yeah, classic question. And it's 50-50. It's 50-50. What's coming up in the next session? Do I have anything in my collection that's missing? And I'll build a little piece for that. Um, and then sometimes on a just surfing Reddit or something, I'll find a cool image and decide I want to build that. And a year later, I might have a session where I decide to force fit it into the story.
Okay. So you
So that's
have like
both.
the model equivalent to I don't know if it'd be a pile of shame, but you have like a backlog of projects that you kind of work through.
I do. I have a Google Doc that has all my lists of ideas of things I want to do. And then I have one section of the shelf in the workshop here with the works in progress. And it's actually not too full. It's probably only, I don't know, 3 or 4 things in progress.
Okay.
So,
Oh, you've managed to keep on top of everything then. Well
yeah.
done.
Yep.
So then let's shift a bit here since a lot of your videos are about terrain building. I actually stumbled across your channel years ago when I was looking for one-page rules bat reps. So they're two very different beasts where you have videos teaching people how to construct and build terrain to filming a battle report. So what made you decide to want to make a shift like that and start filming games and putting them up on your channel?
Just trying to grow it. Turned out to be the wrong idea because I think I'm no expert, but what YouTube likes is very specific content and you don't spread out and you grow that audience. But my motto is make things, play games. So I had to make
Yes.
things, but I didn't have a lot of play games. So filming battle reports seemed like relatively easy. And I figured if I could fill the air and do that sports commentator thing in a good enough way, then maybe it would catch fire and people would like it. So honestly, though, it was about growing the channel. I like to boost my
Mm.
numbers. There's no YouTuber who's not an egoist.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm guilty as charged, and I think you're definitely onto something because I don't know if I have what one of my other guests called game ADHD, where I'm going all over the place. So on my channel, I did bat reports and painting videos and this podcast, and I wonder if that's part of the reason why it's not growing as fast as I'd like. Is I have too many different things, and so the algorithm's like, we don't know who to send you to, so we're just not going to send you anybody. Who knows?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Could be.
Yep.
Okay, then. So you did have a series of one page rules bat reps, but then there was quite a bit of a hiatus, and now you're just getting back into doing it. Was that while you were working on some of these other projects? Did you said it? Did you realize it wasn't worth it for the channel, so you paused? What was the gap for?
No, so promotion at work. So things in my day. I work at a dual reactor nuclear facility where we produce electricity for the state of Maryland, and so there's only one. It's
You're
not
a
that.
living, breathing Homer Simpson.
No, that's the operator. I'm the
Oh, okay,
engineer. Yeah.
okay,
So I mean, it's no big secret, but so yeah, I'm a nuclear engineer by day, and it's been a rough few years.
okay,
Getting
okay.
busy. Also, family life. The kids are getting older. They have extracurriculars now. So,
Oh yes.
yeah, I know it. I guess it looked like a hiatus. Really, I'm just whenever I have time, I work on a video of some kind, and it may be a week between two videos, or it may be a month. It's just where I'm at.
Okay. Because I wasn't sure. I thought maybe because I was looking at them like, okay, he has relatively steady posting of these battle reports and then just nothing. And I thought either he quit playing or it wasn't getting enough views. Because you have, some of your terrain tutorials are 6 digits of views, whereas the bat reps are obviously a lot smaller. And I thought, did he abandon it? And then just a week or two ago, you posted a new one, a fairly substantial one. I think it was like, was it like 6,000 points per side? You and someone else were doing Chaos
It was
versus or Havoc.
6,800. Yeah.
Yeah, 6,800. That's a big game. And so I was just curious. Then it's just the time the planets have aligned, and now you have the time to do the games again.
Yeah, pretty much. Yep. We moved 3 years ago. Our new house. We pretty much got things settled. I like to do lots of home improvement, renovation projects. So those take up weekends, but life in general is hopefully kind of getting to an equilibrium now for this summer, and I hope to do a lot more.
Okay. So then, going back to let's look at kind of a confluence of topics here. So you have a lot of really cool ideas for terrain, like crafting, using materials. Do you do a lot of kit bashing when you make your models?
Not a lot, no, because my channel is about speed and ease for people who are amateurs like myself, and
Okay.
they're unlikely to have leftover sprue bits or whatever. So I'll use thrift store toy finds, right? So
Uh-huh.
I guess that's kit bashing in a sense. Cut pieces off of that. Take a water gun, use it as part of an oil derrick, something like that.
Okay.
If you call that kit bashing, then yeah. But things that are very bespoke, like leftover 40K bits, I try and minimize my use of. Same for 3D printing. The average Joe who finds my channel probably doesn't have a 3D printer, and it really takes the fun out of it anyway. I love the smell of hot glue and using my hands.
Oh, the smell of resin doesn't do it for you.
That too, but
Okay. Well, I was just curious because, like you mentioned, one of your terrain tutorials you took, as you said, there was a toy hammer that you had, and you mixed with some, I believe it was like the polystyrene foam, and you make a piece of terrain. So I was wondering then, when you look at a model, do you take a bit here and a piece there, and have that same kind of customization? But instead, the kits you mostly build as they are, but the terrain is where you kind of let your creativity run crazy.
oh yeah, yeah. So I see what you're asking. Yeah, and as far as my army goes, no, I don't do really any kit bashing. I'll use the standard, what comes on the sprues or
Hmm.
eBay rescues. I like to do eBay rescues. My
Hmm.
orcs are fully eBay rescue.
That's a great way to get stuff on the cheap for anybody who's just new into model collecting. You can always find folks who bought into the hobby and then for some reason got out, and they'll sell entire armies on eBay for
Oh yeah.
relatively cheap.
hmm
So you mentioned that you have wife and family. Do any of them do either Dungeons and Dragons or tabletop gaming at all?
No, my wife's not a nerd. My son's really into video games, VR, Minecraft. Really creative. My daughter's really creative too, but she's in her gymnastics. So
Different
uh,
creativity.
yeah, different creativity and a different kind of geekdom, but not really D&D. We've tried a family D&D campaign, and we had fun, but they didn't like ask, "Hey, when can we do it again?" So
Yeah, you get the feeling that they were kind of humoring you a bit, and like, okay, we enjoyed it, but we
they're
don't need to
just old
schedule it.
enough to know how to do that. Yep.
Yeah.
hmm
Yeah, it was like when we tried a new recipe and we asked my son. We said, "Did you like it?" And he went, "Oh yes." We said, "Would you like some more?" "No, thank you." Like, okay, I get it.
hmm
That makes sense there. All right, so then let's talk about some of these like bat reps on your channel here. Do you have plans for like specific campaigns, or do you just catch as catch can?
Oh, the latter, and it's really people in my life, whether they're friends or coworkers, who may have a passing interest. So I'll have them over, and like my old neighbor is in a bunch of them, and I don't think none of them ever had armies. They use my house armies. So all
Okay,
the armies you see are mine. um,
okay.
they just come over, they want to learn how to play, and they enjoy it. So, and I say, "Are you okay? You want to be on YouTube?" And they're always like, "Yeah."
Huh. None of because a few people I've talked to that I'll invite to play, and they'll be like, I'm not so sure I want to be on there. Like, don't worry, I don't have that many viewers. You're not going to be that public. But
Yeah, I guess if
that's
I
their
just
play.
stick to first name or whatever, it's
Yeah, it's
It's
usually
fine.
pretty good.
But yeah, no campaigns or anything. It's just I try and mix up and get different combinations of armies that I haven't featured before. Which mathematically I think I have 2 or 3 of those left.
Okay.
Because I have what? Do I have 8 armies? 9 armies? I can't remember.
So then what's the gaming scene like? You said you're in Maryland and East Coast of the United States. So what's it like there? Is there a lot of local gaming stores near you? Is it pretty thriving? Is it mostly focused on 40K stuff? If you have people over to your house, I mean, that's nice to have the private games, but what's it like outside of the home? Just out of
Well,
curiosity.
around where I live, there is an excellent local gaming store and a big double-sized in a strip mall or
Hmm.
shopping mall, or I'm sorry, a plaza, whatever you call it. So, and they also have a side with where they're opening for cheap food. So, but it's big, well stocked, lots of tables, well lit.
Okay.
So we have one of those in my area. I do some shopping there. I don't think I've ever gamed in there. I have a bit of social anxiety, so I pretty much only game in my house. There's one gaming convention a year that I attend, and that's about it.
Oh, if you don't ask me, which one is that? Because I actually just interviewed another gentleman. I had Scott from Let's Talk Tabletop, and he's in Maryland, and he actually runs a convention up there. So I was just wondering if that's it.
No, this one's Mythic Con, which is in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay,
Hmm.
okay, that's a bit of a drive from up there. All right. Well, that's really interesting that you mentioned not necessarily a version, but a preference for playing the smaller, intimate games with friends in your own house, and yet you have a massively popular YouTube channel. So you don't have any concern turning on the camera, showing a tutorial, talking into it.
Right,
I'm
right.
curious, like why is there no concern there, and yet to go into a store, maybe not as big, not as good of an idea to you. I'm just curious.
I
Not
but
meaning to
before
make this a gotcha. I found that fascinating.
I don't know. I think part of it's maybe a little bit of just comfort, but I think before we started recording, we were talking about kids, and you remember the chapter when yours were younger, and it's like, oh my God, I'm in my late 30s. All I want to do is just stay in my pajamas tonight. It's like some of it's just energy, time in the day. I think that's mostly it. I
Okay.
just, yeah, between work and everything else, I'm not going to go out starting at 7:30 p.m. on a weeknight. Oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
No, that one I can definitely sympathize with. After you've day of
And
work, taking the
I
kids
turned
to
40 last
practice.
month.
Well, I can tell you it only goes downhill from here.
Uh-huh.
So
Oh, good, good.
I mean, I'm 45, but yeah, I absolutely get that. So that makes sense. I actually prefer when to have people over because then it's your own setting, it's your stuff, much more of a comfortable zone. Whereas you go to the store, it's someone else's terrain, could be noisy. Occasionally, you get those gamers whose personal hygiene isn't the best. It happens.
Yeah,
It happens to everybody.
yeah. Occasionally
Okay.
you are that guy. No, I'm just kidding.
I hope not. I'm sure at least once I have been, but outstanding. Okay. So then tell us, what are some of the things coming down the pike for your channel in general? We talked a little bit about, OPR, and it'll be what arises. But what are some things, folks who haven't already seen your channel? And if you guys haven't, you should definitely go check it out, especially if you're crafty and you're into building your own terrain. What kinds of things can they expect coming down the pike?
So my favorite video games, one of my top 5 is Baldur's Gate, the original first 2 from the 90s and the early
Uh-huh.
2000s. So I have a series where I take the art assets from that game, like the buildings, and I just build them and I try to replicate the art style. So I have a big installment of that series coming out. It's probably the next video in a few days. I'm working on a cyberpunk bar called Broken Wings. Um, let's see. There's some sponsored BS I got to get out of the way. uh, Torture chamber elements for dressing up your dungeon.
That's
Oh,
quite a
and
spread.
Yeah, I keep it pretty diverse. Which, as we said earlier, is probably not the best thing.
Well, but
Um,
I mean, at the same time, I was just about to say that's interesting. You have multiple projects that you're working on simultaneously. Excuse me. And at the same time, I'm that way with miniatures. Like I can't take a kit and say I'm going to build, paint, base before I get another kit. Instead, I have some that are in building stage and some that are primed and some that need painting. And that way, whatever you feel like working on, you've got it. So you can walk into your workshop and whatever project's really kind of speaking to you, you can work on that rather than this, as you mentioned, this feeling that some of the projects you have to have done by a specific time, and then it stops being a hobby and it starts feeling more like work.
yeah, well, that's a tale as old as time, right? And that does happen. I guess that's an interesting perspective that you have something in a stage where you want to work on it. I think eventually, though, what you have is that nothing ever gets totally finished. Or for me, having I'm like 5% OCD, not debilitate, just a little bit, but I'm like, if the army's 95% done, I'm not gonna be able to sleep tonight. But then I might have a cool idea for some other hero I want to add, and now I'm back to 92%. So it just piles up. Finishing stuff is so important for making a hobby stay enjoyable, especially if you're trying to monetize it.
You're
Like
right.
I have.
Well, no, that's a great point because I did a video way earlier in the channel about how do you conquer the pile of shame. So on the one hand, I think it's okay to have multiple projects so that you always have something to catch your attention. But as you say, if you never finish anything, then it becomes more like a swamp, and looking at all these unfinished projects bogs you down. So how do you make sure that you keep a steady stream of finishing projects so that you always feel like you're accomplishing something?
Yeah, probably on average, twice a month, I'll come up with a cool idea of a neat thing I want to do next. And I simply don't allow myself to start. I treat it as a reward, like you would treat dessert after dinner, and everything else has to happen first.
Okay.
That's how I got all my armies done. So like my orcs, for example, were 4 eBay rescues, and there's like I think 400 models total. But I used an assembly line process. I did a dip instead of hand washing, so they're tabletop standard to be clear. Um, and then I said once every single one of them is based, then it'll be time to do something else. So I also find that once you get into those moments and you're like in mass production of whatever the thing that you're doing is, after like half hour, a weird thing happens where you start to you get momentum and you feel like maybe I'm not having fun, but I feel really good.
You're
I
productive.
don't exercise, but I would guess that for people who exercise, this is probably what they experience. Uh, which again, I need to start doing because I'm 40.
It's
But
it's hobby working out.
I
It
guess
counts.
so. Yeah.
It
It's like
really counts.
the just the getting things done. It may not be fun, but it feels good.
So do you when you get in that zone and you're like you say batch painting? I recently finished for I think it was last year for a Christmas present to myself. I bought a fantasy dwarf army, and like you said, I think there were about 200 individual models, and so you need to get to that process of painting things steadily. Do you listen to things, watch things? Do you have anything going on in the background to kind of turn the make the experience a little easier?
Oh yeah, YouTube. And for a while I would do 40K lore. Kind of got burned out on that, and now I listen to all kinds of various video essayists. A
Oh,
lot
okay.
of pop culture critique type stuff. Anything that's like at least an hour and a half long, so I don't have to go up and click play on the next thing.
Ah, okay. So that's the root of, and actually, I mean this seriously, is the long form interview or the long form video, because YouTube seems to either want like the 10-15 minute quick hit or those super long videos where you really dive in. And I'm guessing one is for, doom scrolling where you're just watching, short snippets here or there. But then, like you said, you get into a project, you're going to set a time and say, all right, I'm going to work on this for an hour and a half. And you find a video that's about an hour and a half and you say, all right, when this video's done, I'll take a bit of a break.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It serves as a good natural timer for you. Yep. And your insight is correct about long form stuff. So, like, this is funny. That Tomb of Horrors series you mentioned earlier, it was over 10 videos. I also went ahead and stitched them together. I forget what's that program called? Doesn't matter. I made a 3-hour video and I uploaded that. So, zero effort on my part. I had already made the 10 videos. So, I stitched them together. I uploaded as a single video. That video has gotten 1.1 million views. It's my most viewed video on my channel, and it took zero extra effort.
A 3-hour video, and that's the one that took off.
Yep.
Crazy.
Yep.
You'd almost picture someone like sits down with all the materials and then they turn it on and they're like, "Oh, I'm just going to build in real time along with them. And by the time this video's done, I'll have the whole thing."
Yeah. I
Wow.
mean, you're not far off. I'm sure. So there's lots of people. I'm sure a lot of that 1.1 million is rewatches, people who
Yeah.
just like to have it on because while they're doing their crafting.
Yeah. Wow. What would that be? 1.1 million views on a single video.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope you did something to celebrate that.
I did. I started doing shorts. I had never done shorts before,
The
and
irony is
YouTube
not
likes
lost.
shorts as well.
Interesting. Okay. Well then, let's see here. Let me pour over my questions to see what else I was going to ask about here. So, um, you like the 40K, or not the 40K. You like the OPR rule set, the
Love it.
40K universe. Do you have a model line or series or a 3D printing STL line that you really really gravitate towards?
So the OPR models are, of course, excellent. Um, the As I said, I've been touting my own system lately. So cyberpunk stuff. There's a maker on myminifactory.com called Papsicals.
Oh yeah, I'm well familiar with Papsicles.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Amazing. Awesome stuff. Um, and I do love Games Workshop models. I think they are. You pay what you get what you pay for. They are the best in the world. They are gorgeous and they're fun
They
to
are good.
paint.
They are
Yep.
good. They're pricey, but they're good.
Yep. I can't not gonna knock it. My favorite would probably be stuff made by Games Workshop.
Okay. And then after that, the 3D printing. Do you try any other like they might like War Games Atlantic or Victrix or anything like that, or is it mostly GW and 3D printing?
Mostly GW 3D printing. I am I'm probably shockingly poorly versed. Like I don't know those names you just mentioned. I'm really about all my energy and attention is on the terrain. The actual figures kind of come second. My
Interesting.
terrain
Well, no,
probably looks better than my models.
there's one thing, and I'm sure the folks who listen to this podcast frequently get so sick of me talking about this, but when I first started finding bat reps, like when I first heard the concept, I thought I'm going to watch two people play a tabletop game. I thought that was pretty sad. And then I started watching them. I'm like, okay, I get it now. But
Mhm.
the two that I liked watching the most, it's because they had amazing tabletops.
You do have to, yeah, both for the spectacle and for the rules. The rules are designed assuming you've got lots of line of sight blocking and decision making. You've got to have a well populated table.
Yes, yes. And so, I mean, you can always have and this, I'm not meaning to knock anybody who does this, but when I'm watching a bat rep, if it's casual and these are just a bunch of guys uploading for fun, I totally get it. But if your channel's more than that, if you have terrain on a table for a bat rep that isn't painted or something like that, it breaks the immersion.
It
You
does,
know,
yes.
you
Yes.
have other pieces. You're creating this. It was almost like going to a museum and seeing a diorama, and then there's this one building that's still pine, unpainted, unfinished, and it just your eyes just drawn to it, and you can't pull away from that. So I
Yeah,
absolutely agree with
I'm like you. Yeah, the hobbyist aspect. I like you said, not knocking anybody. You get what you want out of the hobby. My standard for my bat reps, I do not permit anything that's not fully painted and complete. So, um, armies are all done, terrain all done, and telling a cohesive story for that bat rep. Because I do not care if I win or lose. I want to move around 400 or 500 models and get good camera shots and try and give some engaging commentary and have that immersion. That you put it best.
Yeah, and that's what I hope to go with mine. Because like you, I'm not competitive. I think it's from growing up in Canada. We don't have a whole lot of competitiveness in us there, so it was just never inculcated in me. But
Okay. My elbows
so
up.
then, what's that? Yeah, of course. So going back to on this topic of making the board look really really nice. You said you are in the process now of taking the Baldur's Gate stuff and then making it actual real terrain. Are you prepping for a D&D campaign set in Baldur's Gate, or you just want to have the terrain handy for a nice scene?
No, I just like making that terrain because it takes me back to when I was like, how old? 14 years old playing Baldur's. It's just nostalgic for me. And
Okay.
then I do use it a lot for making towns or whatever layout I need. I don't think I've ever actually run a D&D session in Baldur's Gate itself, but the buildings are generic enough. It looks like a fantasy setting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like I said, it's perfect generic town fantasy look. So then, is it? I don't know. Let me see how I'm going to phrase this. You obviously Dungeons and Dragons is a fantasy setting, but your own game is now. You said it's cyberpunk theme, and then with OPR you play a lot of sci-fi. Do you have like a specific genre for each specific type of game, or am I
Um,
just
I mean, now that you mention it, it kind of seems that way, but no, not deliberately. I don't think. As far as my system goes, yeah, I was interested in trying out cyberpunk role playing.
Mhm.
I looked at the two major franchises that are out there and found the books, in my opinion, to be kind of inaccessible,
Okay?
and really not what I was interested in, both in mechanics and setting. So that's why I went up about designing my own system and setting. Um,
So this new
yeah,
game you've developed, what was it called?
Neon Skies.
Neon Skies. Is it? How would you describe? Is it like a full size tabletop war game? Is it a skirmish game? Is it an RPG system? Talk about it a little bit. Let's pitch it.
No, it's classic tabletop role playing system like D&D. You can buy a DM screen, and it's I say fully original. Of course, it has lots of tropes that you would expect of the genre. I mean, that's what makes it
Sure.
a genre. But there's
Right.
lots of new twists on it and new ideas in the story elements.
Okay.
And the system is a dice pool system. Um, it's let me think how best to describe it.
Well, I mean, the best way would be to tell folks just to go check it out. It's a as a role playing game. So you control one single character. You play it in a group, much like a
Yep.
D&D campaign.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah, just like D&D takes place in the year 2150. Everyone has some cybernetic infusions, and there's hacking and laser weapons, and um, but it despite that, it is kind of intended to be sort of grounded. We never made it to space. Kessler syndrome happened, so that's where space junk hits other space junk and causes a chain reaction, right? So there's this shell of debris around the Earth that prohibited us. So we're kind of in a cage
All
of our
right.
own making. And in the year 2150, everything has come to the point where technology has matured and it's at a flash point.
Okay. So do you think you'll start making, unless you already have started, terrain and stuff for science or science fiction and cyberpunk? I think you said you were working on a little, but is there plans to like have a series of videos about, hey, here's the game, and here's some like iconic settings or buildings or structures or something like that from the game?
Yeah, that playlist is on my channel right now, and
Is it? Okay, so I must have
some of
passed
the
over.
videos are hidden, so you have to go to the playlist to see them because they're unlisted. Um,
Oh,
they have information from back during play testing that's outdated, so I need to replace those videos with the final post Kickstarter stuff. But there's terrain builds that are there. I built a club out of so I had an old DVD player and I tore the circuit boards out of it and I ripped off the protruding elements like the capacitors and stuff. So you just have this circuit board with the resistors and the paths. So you can prime that and dry brush it, and they become walls. So I made a miniature cyberpunk bar club out of the circuit boards.
see,
So I
now
have a video on that.
that's what separates the folks like you who can build terrain from scratch from the folks like me who can take a terrain kit I can build it and paint it, but I would never have looked at a circuit board in an electronics piece of equipment and said, you know what, I can make a wall in a futuristic cyberpunk bar or something out of this. You just see this stuff, like you're looking at it like, I could turn that into this. I could turn that into that.
Yep, pretty much.
Wow. That's a gift, I'd say.
Always on the lookout. Another cool thing, like walking through the hardware store in the US, electrical junction boxes in the wall are made out of plastic, and they're this sort of rectangular shape. When you put them upside down, it looks like a bunker like you'd see out of 40K. So I have a video, I think it's called Electrical Gang Box Bunker or something, but I made a whole bunch of bunkers out of that for my 40K terrain.
Wow. Okay, so any folks who are, and you said your videos are usually geared towards, would you say beginners, intermediate, expert?
Yeah, it's intended for the most part, someone who's never done any building or painting of this stuff before. I give enough instruction that you could do it from any video. So yeah, I'm aimed at amateurs like myself.
Okay. So, I mean, that's to me, that's like full dedication to the hobby. To have a bat rep, and then you can honestly say everything you see on this table, I built, I painted, I came up with it. Like it's 100% yours. That's super impressive. Like
accurate.
Major props to you for that one.
Oh, thanks.
So anyone who's interested in a similar kind of accomplishment, definitely check out Wyloch's Armory. So we are coming close to the end here. Any last words of wisdom to listeners about hobbying, about gaming, about anything like that?
I don't have anything new or novel. I'll just reinforce the things that I've found to be really true. So 3-color rule for your army is all you got to worry about. But also make sure they're all based and they're based the same. Common bases on all your models it will overcome the worst paint jobs in the world. So you can call an army finished if it's got 3 colors and fully based. Make sure it's fully based.
Well, there you have it.
And then we talked about like getting things done, and it may not be fun, but after a little bit you'll start to feel good, and that builds upon itself.
And then when you finish, that's the capstone. So I think those definitely build. You have a simple but effective paint scheme. And as you start doing that, like in earnest, you build momentum, which gets armies finished, which then gets you feeling like, wow, I can actually do this. And then you're excited to start your next project.
Oh yeah. Yep, absolutely. Oh, and base coat with an airbrush or rattle can, but I prefer airbrush. Don't use a brush. Duncan Rhodes does it, but he's a god. And oh my god, I have never painted a base coat on a model before, ever. I bought it when I first got into that hobby. I bought an airbrush, and I've never had to do it.
Wow, I once for a time when I was actually a GW employee many years ago.
Oh, okay.
And I had a guy come in with a model that he had based by hand with a brush, and he's like, is this supposed to look like this? And I looked at it and I'm like, well, believe it or not, yes. But let me show you an easier way to do it. And then showed him the rattle can. So yeah, I didn't know Duncan did all that. I thought one of the videos he did when he still worked at Games Workshop was how to properly prime using a spray can. So that's actually kind of weird that he goes and does it old school. But no, I think that's fantastic advice. So thanks again for joining me on the line of sight. To everybody else, if you have not already, if you're not familiar with Wyloch's Armory, I'll put a link in the description below so you can check it out. And also, if Bill, if you want, I'll put a link to your Neon Skies game for anybody who is interested in a cyberpunk, semi-futuristic RPG. So go ahead and check both of those out. And until next time, keep your dice on the table, and we'll see you on the next episode. So take care, everybody.